What if I told you that Hollywood was not always the land of dreams? It was also a land of power, control, scandal, and downfall. This is the complete story of how old Hollywood rose from the dusty streets of California to become the world's dream factory, and how it all came crashing down. The early foundations, 1910s to 1920s. In the early 1910s, Hollywood was little more than farmland, orange groves, and quiet neighborhoods. The word Hollywood didn't mean glamour. It meant silence, dust, and fields under the California sun. But those fields would soon become the backdrop for a revolution. On the East Coast, filmmaking was dominated by Thomas Edison's trust, which owned key patents. Independent producers who wanted freedom were hunted by Edison's lawyers. So they fled first westward, then all the way to California. Here, the sunlight was free, the landscapes diverse, and the law was far away. By the time the 1920s arrived, Hollywood was already buzzing with activity. Studios sprang up, cameras rolled from morning till night, and thousands of dreamers poured into California, hoping for a chance to be discovered. The silent screen gave birth to giants. Charlie Chaplin's Tramp wasn't just a character. It was a global icon of humor and humanity. Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart, became one of the most powerful women in the world, not just an actress but a producer with her own studio. Douglas Fairbanks leaped across castles and ships as the ultimate swashbuckler, defining the adventure genre. Together, Pickford, Fairbanks, Chaplin, and D.W. Griffith formed United Artists, an early rebellion against studio control. But fame came at a cost. In 1921, Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle, one of Hollywood's most beloved comedians, was accused of a crime that horrified the public. Though later acquitted, his career never recovered. The press devoured the scandal, cementing Hollywood's reputation as a place of both glamour and corruption. Then came the shocking murder of director William Desmond Taylor in 1922. The case involved drug scandals, love affairs, and mysterious witnesses, yet was never solved. Newspapers splashed the story across front pages, fanning the idea that Hollywood was not just entertainment. It was a breeding ground for sin. And so, even as stars shone brighter, the public began to demand morality. Religious groups, politicians, and ordinary Americans pressured the industry. Hollywood, they warned, was not just a dreamland, it was dangerous. The Golden Age begins 1930s. The Great Depression left America shattered. Banks collapsed, families lost everything, and unemployment rose to staggering heights. Yet inside the glittering walls of movie palaces, ordinary people found salvation. Hollywood gave the world hope when it needed it most. For a dime, audiences escaped into musicals choreographed by Busby Berkeley, whose dancers moved like human kaleidoscopes. They saw Greta Garbo, the mysterious star who could captivate with a single look. They laughed with the Marx Brothers, who brought chaos and wit when laughter was scarce. In 1934, however, the Dream Factory faced strict control. The Hays Code was enforced, banning explicit depictions of sex, drugs, profanity, and even excessive passion. Kisses were timed to last no longer than a few seconds. Beds could not show a man and woman lying together. Criminals could not appear to profit from crime. This censorship forced filmmakers into brilliance. A closed door or a flickering candle became more suggestive than anything explicit. Dialogue crackled with innuendo. Shadows and lighting became tools of implication. Stars carried Hollywood on their shoulders. Jean Harlow, with her platinum hair, embodied raw allure. Katharine Hepburn defied stereotypes, playing sharp, independent women who matched men word for word. And Shirley Temple, a child star with curls and dimples, lifted an entire nation's spirits. Her films were so profitable that they kept studios afloat during the Depression. The 30s solidified Hollywood's role, not just entertainment, but escape, fantasy, and survival. The studio system, 1930s to 1940s. As the industry grew, power consolidated into 5 major studios: MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, RKO, and 20th Century Fox. Known as the Big Five, these companies controlled every step of filmmaking, production, distribution, and exhibition. Actors signed contracts that bound them completely. Studios decided what roles they played, how they dressed, and even who they appeared with in public. Star image was carefully curated. A romantic affair could be invented by a publicity team. A scandal could be buried with hush money. But the cost was devastating. Judy Garland, MGM's Golden Girl, was forced onto diets and pills from adolescence. She was fed stimulants to perform, then sleeping pills to rest, starting a cycle of addiction that haunted her life. Bette Davis, one of the most talented actresses of her time, rebelled against Warner Brothers for artistic freedom, only to be dragged back by court rulings. Behind the scenes, contracts were shackles. The studios could elevate a nobody into a legend, but they could just as easily destroy careers with a single decision. For all its glitter, Hollywood was a factory, ruthless and unrelenting. World War II, 1940s. When World War II began, Hollywood mobilized like an army. Movies became weapons of patriotism. War films glorified American bravery. Comedies offered relief from fear. Musicals, bright and joyous, reminded audiences of life worth fighting for. Stars played their part off-screen, too. Jimmy Stewart left his stardom behind to become a bomber pilot, rising to the rank of brigadier general. Clark Gable enlisted after his wife Carol Lombard died in a plane crash while promoting war bonds. Marlene Dietrich entertained soldiers at the front lines, earning medals for her service. Bob Hope became a traveling symbol of morale, performing tirelessly for troops overseas. But when the war ended, a new conflict began. The Cold War and fear of communism gripped America. The House Un-American Activities Committee targeted Hollywood, accusing filmmakers of spreading communist ideas. Some testified. Others refused and were blacklisted, unable to work again. The Hollywood 10, a group of writers and directors, became martyrs for free speech. The industry that once united America now tore itself apart in suspicion. Careers were ruined not by talent, but by politics. The peak of old Hollywood, 1950s. The 1950s was Hollywood's most glamorous age, and also its most fragile. Marilyn Monroe became the ultimate star, a symbol of desire across the globe. Yet inside, she struggled with loneliness, failed marriages, and addiction. Elizabeth Taylor transformed from a child actress into one of the world's most beautiful women. Yet her personal life, marked by multiple marriages, affairs, and illness, kept her in headlines. Grace Kelly, beloved for her elegance, shocked the world when she abandoned Hollywood to become Princess of Monaco, proving life could rival fiction. Then came James Dean. With Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, he embodied restless youth. His sudden death at only 24 sealed his legend forever, youthful rebellion frozen in time. Technicolor dazzled audiences. The Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur stunned with scale and spectacle. CinemaScope gave wide, breathtaking views television could not rival. Hollywood seemed unstoppable. But beneath the shimmer, cracks grew. The perfect images of stars were harder to maintain. Scandals leaked. Addictions surfaced. And audiences began to wonder if the dream was all a lie. The dark side of stardom. Hollywood's most glittering stars carried its darkest burdens. Marilyn Monroe lived under the constant gaze of press and public, her struggles with identity and mental health hidden behind rehearsed smiles. Judy Garland dependency worsened, her voice and spirit both scarred by decades of abuse from studios. Even Elizabeth Taylor, the queen of beauty and talent, could not escape scandal. Her marriages and affairs were dissected relentlessly. The studio-created illusion of perfection was shattering. For the first time, audiences saw their idols not as untouchable gods, but as flawed, broken humans. The rise of television. Then came television, and with it, Hollywood's greatest rival. Families could sit at home and watch entertainment for free. By the late 50s, TV ownership soared, and box office attendance plunged. Hollywood fought back with big-screen spectacles. Widescreen, 3D, lavish musicals, biblical epics. For a while, it worked. People still lined up to see Cleopatra, Around the World in 80 Days, and South Pacific. But the shift was clear. Cinema was no longer the only dream factory. The silver screen was losing its monopoly. The fall of the studio system 1960s. By the early 60s, the studio system crumbled. A Supreme Court decision forced studios to divest from their theater chains, breaking their monopoly. Stars and directors demanded independence. For the first time, actors could choose roles without studio control. The glamour dissolved. Scandals could no longer be hidden. The press exposed affairs, addictions, divorces. The public no longer accepted artificial perfection. They wanted realism. The golden dream machine that had dominated for half a century was ending. The dawn of New Hollywood. By the late 60s, a new wave emerged. Young directors like Arthur Penn, Mike Nichols, and Francis Ford Coppola rejected the polished fantasies of the past. Bonnie and Clyde shocked audiences with violence and sexuality. The Graduate captured a generation's disillusionment. New Hollywood was raw, rebellious, and real. The rules were gone. The dream was broken. But cinema was alive again, daring, dangerous, and free. The rise and fall of old Hollywood is more than just a story about movies. It is a story of power and corruption, glamour and tragedy, perfection and collapse. From the dusty streets of California to the golden palaces of fame. From Chaplin's tramp to Marilyn Monroe's heartbreak. From glamour to scandal, Hollywood lived, shined, and fell. Old Hollywood remains eternal, a world of both magic and madness. This was the rise and fall of old Hollywood.